West Ham enter the race for Brennan Johnson. Forest get a bid rejected. And will we actually ever go in for Tyler Adams? Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. In today's video, we'll talk to you about the latest developments on Brennan Johnson and why are Forest going so low for Sangare. It's embarrassing. We'll also talk to you about Tyler Adams and should Forest hijack this deal now with Boring Mouth. Plenty to get into. Before we do all that, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And don't forget, if you want that signed framed Morgan Gibbs White shirt with LEDs, all the bells and whistles, the link for it is in the description below. All right, let's jump into the news and let's start with Brennan Johnson. So one of the many clubs that have been linked with Brennan Johnson this summer is West Ham. And now that West Ham have started to get some money in, obviously they've sold pudding rice. There's talks that Paqueta is going to Manchester City. And West Ham are looking to strengthen their resources with another attacking option. And that attacking option is, of course, Brennan Johnson and is firmly on their target list. And I think out of all the clubs that he's been linked to, and again, we're making the assumption that he's going, not whether we want him to go and whether not, just let's make that assumption for now. I think West Ham is one that we could make some good money off. One, they're stupid. And then secondly, we know they've got money. And therefore we can demand a good fee for him. And we know that Spurs are potentially interested. We know that crappy little Brentford with their BTEC stadium want him, but just don't have the resources to do it. So we can almost use Brentford as the foundation. They've bid 35 mil. That's been rejected. So any team now coming will have to probably go at least like 40, 45. Maybe we even get into the 50s with him. And knowing that West Ham are frustrating their fan base with the lack of transfer activities they've had. Yes, they've signed one or two players now. I mean, they're probably happy that Slabhead Maguire isn't going, but that's a whole nother story. But what we can do, we can start to create a bidding war here. When I say we, obviously I'm talking about the club, and really try and push the price up. Obviously, I'll say again, this is completely under the assumption that Forest want to sell Brennan Johnson and Brennan Johnson would be willing to leave. Brennan Johnson still hasn't come out and publicly declared where his head's at. Does he want to stay at Forest? Does he want to go, etc.? But I think the driver of this move will be financial fair play. So if we take emotion out of this and we understand that Forest will probably have to sell Brennan Johnson, then we need as much money as possible for him. And I don't think it's unrealistic to expect around 45 to 50 million for him, especially as Forest have made it clear that 35 is not enough with the bid they rejected from Brentford. So I do expect some activity on Brennan Johnson, but I don't know how late I expect it into the window. I mean, we've only got, about 2 weeks left to get all business done. I personally would prefer, if Brennan Johnson was going to leave, that he goes in the next few days or whatever, rather than drag it out till the end and doesn't give us time to replace him and replenish him with a replacement. So at the moment, West Ham are interested. Spurs are interested. There's still loose links with Villa. There's still links with Brentford. This one is going to gather pace and gather pace soon. Just will it be now or will it be towards the end of the window? Okay, so let's move on and talk about players coming potentially in rather than those going out. And of course, it is the saga that is Sangare that has been dragging on now. But there is some progress. But the progress, in my opinion, is quite embarrassing, as Nottingham Forest have tabled a bid for him for 25 million euros, which is about 21 million pounds. Remember, his release fee clause is 37 million euros, and they are absolutely miles off. But on top of that, the embarrassing part in all of this is that Forest have said it's a 21 million pound offer, But we want him on loan first for a year with an obligation to buy. And that for me just stinks of FFP or stinks of really. Shock horror, it's been rejected by PSV. And honestly, even as a Forest fan, I can't blame them. I can't blame them because the key here is Sangarei is under contract. He signed a new one last year. There's no rush for PSV to agree to release him. The money has to be right for them. They're not in a desperate, dire situation where they need the money desperately because he's going to be, in his last year of his contract and go off on a Bosman in 12 months' time. So there's no rush for him. So you do need to be at least somewhere close to that release fee clause for this deal to happen. And we are nowhere near. And the other annoyance in this is that there are some big clubs after him. You got PSG who are interested. You got Bayern who are interested and Liverpool who are interested. It's really important that if, like me, you want Sangare at Nottingham Forest, you need to be keeping an eye on the activity of these other three teams and what they are doing. Because Liverpool keep getting hijacked by bloody Chelsea, man. They seem to be wanting to sign up every single CDM going on the planet. And just leave them one Chelsea, man, so they don't go for Sangare. It's the same with Bayern, for example. They've tied up a lot of money now in Harry Kane. So maybe their interest in Sangare dies down. But you've also got PSG who are trying to deal with Neymar and Mbappe scenarios. And this is why I feel like if Forest swoop in now and swoop in quickly and under the radar, we could have a chance of it. But I believe the biggest problem, and this is based on nothing than what I feel, is that I don't think Sangare himself is convinced on coming to Nottingham Forest. And no, that's not just because we played appallingly in the friendly against them and he got to see it with his own two eyes. I just feel he wants Champions League football at, Bayern or at a PSG, fine. I mean, at Liverpool, he'd get Europa, but potentially they could be building back up to a top 4 or 5 finish, depending on the coefficient this year, and getting themselves Champions League football. And I feel that's where his desires are. And I don't see or have seen any real buying signals from him to say, come get me. And I feel that at this stage, it's going to have to be the Greek father that steps in and gives him an offer he can't refuse if we are going to get it over the line. The problem I've got at the moment is this recruitment strategy still feels a little haphazard. Although they seem to be targeting the right players, it just feels a bit like they're playing Football Manager, and they've seen Sangare's got a release clause for 37 million in the notes. So they're like, let's just put a token offer in. At least it gets him onto our shortlist. And then slowly try and build their way up to a price that's acceptable. It doesn't really work like that in reality. And it also smells of FFP. If we are struggling to table a bid anywhere in and around his release fee clause, then why are we chasing him in the first place? And why are we not going after a player who's similar, in my opinion, not quite as good, but is available? And that brings us on to our third item on the agenda, which is, of course, Tyler Adams. Now, why am I talking about Tyler Adams? Because Boring Mouth have tabled a 20 million bid for him, and that is his release fee clause. And Boring Mouth is starting to annoy me. I'm going to say it with gritted teeth. They're having a decent summer, and they're putting together what looks to be a competitive Premier League squad. They were ruthless in the summer with the manager, brought the new guy in. They've brought in some good looking players in terms of what they can produce on the pitch. And I think they're going to be okay. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love nothing better than that embarrassment of a stadium and club to go back to where it belongs in the Championship. But I have to call what I see. And they are putting together a decent little team. And if they were to add Tyler Adams in there for 20 million, yes, he's still injured, but it's not a long-term injury or not long left on the recovery. Their team is going to be quite tasty. But no one else is going in. Now that Chelsea fell through with Tyler Adams, if Boring Mouth can attract him, then clearly Forest, who are a better club, a bigger club, better fan base, better everything, a stadium, where the roof doesn't fall off because someone's farted. This is a deal that Forest must hijack. They have to do it because I'm not convinced Sangare will end up here. I hope I'm wrong. But Tyler Adams, if he's even contemplating Bournemouth, then Forest should be an absolute no-brainer. So please, Forest, if you're watching, if you don't feel we're going to get Sangare, go in and get Tyler Adams. He is that piece of the jigsaw puzzle that we do need. That piece that kind of links between the defense and the midfield, can hold the ball up, can put a good tackle in, and then he can, start the attacks from that almost quarterback style CDM position. And 20 million, if you are struggling to get to 37 million for Sangare, then 20 million is actually less than we've bidded on him. So guys, I want to ask you this question. Would you rather Forest try and splash out or keep dragging out this Sangare deal and try and get it towards the 37 million? Or it'll be about what, 34 million euros, 32 million euros, something like pounds, sorry. Or we know there's 21 million in the kitty because they've bidded that to PSV. Could we just not use that 20 million and chuck it at Adams? Which, in your guys' opinion, would be the better option? I know I asked that question yesterday, but now we have some numbers behind it. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Get your thoughts in on that down below. Okay, just very quickly, I'm not going to go into a Herculean rant like I did yesterday about Scarpa, but it does look like towards the end of the week he will be flying out to Olympiacos to join the Greeks. I'm not going to rant. All I'm going to say is there's a community poll open on the FFTV homepage on the YouTube channel where you guys can have your say on this. At the moment, the vote is very heavily in favor of keeping Scarpa. Enough said. That's the news. Get your thoughts in. Okay, ladies and gents, that brings you up to date with the latest Nottingham Forest news. There are a couple of loose links about Forest going in for the Brazilian wonder kid for about 10 to 15 million. I haven't had these verified yet, so we'll either bring them to you later or on tomorrow's video. There's talks about this mystery person who's standing on the pitch at Nottingham Forest. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures doing the rounds on social media. Don't know who he is. He just looks like a fan doing a stadium tour or something. God knows. But if anything develops from that, we will let you know. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And don't forget, tonight, we've got the weekend review on the FFTV Premier League channel where Ant and Ez will be going through all the controversial moments from this weekend's football. And no doubt, because they always do, arguing amongst themselves. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.